I'm in the hills above Honolulu, heading for Liljestrand House. When it was designed, Hawaii had turned from an agriculture economy to a military one. And planes were getting faster, so tourism was booming. All this was an influence. Christy.
Mike, welcome to Liljestrand House.
Thank you.
The house was designed by architect Vladimir Ossipoff and built for Howard and Betty Liljestrand in 1952.
And I understand it's the best example of an Ossipoff designed house that you can walk through.
Yes, it is. We are now a historic house museum.
So nobody lives here anymore.
Correct. But Bob Liljestrand, the eldest son of the family who grew up in the house.
Who's also an architect?
Yes, correct. He often said that architecture is the product of the time, the place, and the people who made it. So come on in and let's go back to 1952.
Oh my goodness, Christy, this is what you call an aha moment.
Yes, it is.
So tell me about the people who created this space.
Architect Vladimir Ossipoff was Russian-born, Tokyo-raised, educated at UC Berkeley, came to Hawaii in the 1930s.
Oh wow, complicated guy.
Yes.
And the owners?
Howard and Betty Liljestrand. Howard was born in New York, raised in Sichuan, China, met Betty on the East Coast. They ended up in Hawaii in the 30s, meaning to go on to China, but they never did. They stayed here the rest of their lives.
Okay, also a kind of a complicated story. And I guess it's those complicated stories that are entwined in this house.
Yes, exactly. So for instance, Ossipoff, having been raised in Japan, was fluent in Japanese, so he was able to hire Japanese master carpenters to build this house. They had come over to work at the plantations. Mike, help me open the windows.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
A little bit of 1950s technology. Wow, that's beautiful.
So Ossipoff also believed that air conditioning was evil and that you should work with the natural climate of the environment in order to cool a building, particularly in Hawaii.
Well, you've got these regular trade winds if you can just harness them.
Yes, especially if you have the skill and know how to site a building. Ossipoff was also the first of Hawaii architects to do so.
So Cheryl, Christy mentioned Japanese carpentry. I'm not sure I'm seeing it in the architecture though.
Well, for instance, take a look down this hallway at the beautiful way the light plays from these mullions that are just slightly offset from the plane of the wall. That repetition and procession is very Japanese. Then, of course, we also have this joinery where the header ties into the vertical and lets gravity do the work. It doesn't require as much in the way of mechanical fasteners. Take a look at this beautiful detail here.
Oh, look at that. That's
how
lovely.
Each shelf is just let in, again, to the verticals. And if you look around the house, you'll see many Chinese and other Asian antiques that they collected over their time and travels. Compared, sitting right next to this Eames chair, which was, at the time the house was built, a fairly new piece.
Yeah.
And people love them today just as much as they did then. That's the great thing about them. They are timeless, because good design is timeless. So this area was the realm of play, the whole ground floor. There was an in-ground trampoline right around the corner underneath the master bedroom.
Oh my goodness. Please tell me nobody jumped from the balcony onto the trampoline.
I'm not telling, but there was the ping pong table, and this was the family room where the whole family would gather when the children were smaller and where they would entertain their friends when they became teenagers.
Yeah, it looks like a 50s, 60s teenage pad. And what about that pool? That looks like a scene out of a Slim Aarons photo. Yes,
except Slim Aarons didn't have Diamond Head as the backdrop.
Fair comment. And then the fabulous, very 50s floating staircase.
Yes, those are very popular in the 50s, and many architects designed them. But the thing I really like about this one is the subtle way that the suspension is handled and the glass behind the lower portion of the stair, because that brings in the light and shadow across the wall, because this house is really all about the play of light as the sun moves around the house during the day.
Do you think you get that past code these days?
No. No. So whereas there was only one page of program for the whole house, Betty had 11 pages of instructions for the kitchen. She had a very specific and somewhat idiosyncratic idea of what a kitchen should be. For instance, one item that's clearly custom is this cooktop with this larger counter space. Over here we have a family dining table where the children had dinner. At the desk, it had a typewriter pull-out, drawers for her recipe cards, and well before its time, she had a mixer lift for her classic Oster mixer.
Fantastic.
The cabinets, as you see, are very consistent, but they have some unique features. For instance, there's a pull-out shelf. Looks like a shelf. It's really a ladder to reach above the refrigerator.
To climb up.
Yeah, don't do it.
Oh no. Trudy, you knew the Lilljestrands personally, didn't you?
Yes, I had the very good fortune of working for both the Dr. and Mrs. Liljestrand. I was their house manager, their chef, and as time went on, I became their personal assistant.
Now, I bet you've got some favourite spots in the house.
I do. I mean, apart from the fact that I love all of the house, I do have some favourite spots, beginning, of course, in the beautiful master bedroom. Even as the doctor got elderly in his last few years, he never wanted a hospital bed in here. He always wanted to keep the complete integrity of Ossipoff designing this room. But one of his other really favourite spots in this house, let me show it to you, is what we call, and he called, the reading room. He would say that the bedroom is for two things only, so this was where he would read in the evenings and catch up on his correspondence.
It's a very personal space.
Very personal space, yes. It is a room that for me, I think he could still very much be in this room as well, for sure. Mike, give this door a little nudge.
This one here?
Yeah. What do you think of that? This is their music cabinet. They definitely entertained a lot, so the doctor would choose his music from his collection and he'd place it in what we call your 1950s iPod playlist. So the first records chosen would be for cocktail time, then soup and salad, main course, and the last ones would be for dancing in the living room.
Ed, the community has really got behind this property.
They really have. You know, it is so hard in Hawaii to preserve things, so we don't have a lot of examples of 1950s architecture that have been left alone. And we have to raise funds to help the preservation of probably the best piece of 1950s modernism in Hawaii.
So what do people get out of a visit to Liljestrand?
I think for every single person, it's something different. You know, they come, they hear the story, they see the house, and then that resonates with something inside of them personally.
So every once in a while, Howard would decide that things may need to change up in the house. He would make up a list, invite Ossipoff. I would walk through with Val and Howard, and it usually started out with no, and then no, and then absolutely no, let's get a scotch.
To me, what is really compelling about this house is that it's the story of a lifelong friendship. It's two clients, the Liljestrands, who knew exactly what they wanted. They knew how they wanted to live. And it's about an architect who listened and was able to give them what they wanted. And the end result was this magnificent home. But it's really about the story of the people.
Trudy dug a few things out of the archives for me, and this caught my eye. Dr. Liljestrand in his later years made little thoughtful notes called lucky breaks. Scholarship to Harvard, met Betty, Ossipoff, wonderful house site. I think his son Bob had it right. Architecture is a product of the time, the place, and the people who made it.